Good afternoon. This is Celia Lacayo again with LA Social Science. I teach in the African American Studies and Chicano Central American Studies, and I am currently the Associate Director of Community Engagement. Today, we are continuing with our amazing book series with our research professors at UCLA doing cutting edge work. So today we have with us Natasha Quadlin, who is an associate professor at UCLA, and she is also a faculty fellow in the California Center for Population Research. Her book is entitled Who Should Pay? Higher Education, Responsibility, and the Public. Hi, Natasha. How are you today?
Great. How are you?
Wonderful. Let's get underway. So, can you first tell us what is the genesis of this book? How did you and your co-author choose this topic?
Yes, great question. So, my co author and I, this is Brian Powell at Indiana University, we've studied topics in family relations and higher education for a long time. And the topic of higher education finance is so relevant today because this is a major source of economic strain for many young adults and their families. So, youth today are often expected to go to college, and success is much more certain with a college degree than it is without one. But the costs of higher education have made this a really challenging proposition for the middle class. So, my co author and I were very much interested in the extent to which this situation has shaped public opinion on the funding of college and how it's potentially changed their views about what the role of government should be in higher education.
This is a very relevant topic, so I'm so happy you're with us today. Tell us what is the main argument and the main contribution of this book?
So, the main argument of the book is that public opinion on the funding of college has changed a great deal in a very short amount of time. So, we talked with people across a 10-year span from 2010 into 2020, and we were mainly focused on one question. This is, who should be responsible for the funding of college? Should it be students? Should it be parents? Should it be the state or local government? Or should it be the federal government? So these are kind of their four choices. And we chose these because these perspectives really represent distinct views on what higher education is for and who it should be for. So in 2010, when we started conducting the survey, we found that people overwhelmingly believed that students and parents should be the ones who are paying for college. And we describe this as an individualist solution because people are saying that we should rely on the economic resources of individuals to pay for higher education. And this was actually really consistent with research that had been conducted a long time ago in the 1980s. At that time, too, Americans thought that students and parents should be responsible for the funding of higher education, mainly parents. So we thought to ourselves that between the 1980s and 2010, so much had changed in the world, including in the world of higher education, but these findings had stayed almost exactly the same. So it seemed like this is probably how Americans are going to feel about the funding of college for a very long time. But this is not what happened. So by 2015, when we did a follow up study, we see a huge increase in support for government investment in higher education. And again in 2019, and then in 2020, when we did these studies again, we see increased support for government investment again. So, this period when we've been conducting research has been a really key moment for public opinion regarding higher education, and one where we've seen a lot of change in a very short period of time.
Thank you. So you've already touched upon this a little bit, but tell us more about these key findings and explain a little bit more why there's a change in public opinion as it pertains to who pays for higher education.
We argue in the book that this is a period when a few really important things are happening in the landscape of higher education and then in the landscape of the US in general. So, costs for higher education are increasing rapidly during this period. Student debt is also increasing rapidly. And so this is around the time when student debt is starting to be covered widely in the media. Many people told stories to us about themselves or about family members or about friends who were having trouble related to student debt, and they kind of collectively recognized this as a social problem. We were talking with people kind of before Bernie Sanders really emerged on the national stage, talking about free college and government investment. So this really isn't entirely a Bernie effect, but other policies regarding free tuition have since been introduced that people have generally been really receptive to. So especially in the later years when we've been conducting surveys, this is something that people have brought up as relevant to their opinion.
So, clearly, being one of the experts in this field, what do you predict regarding the future of higher education and the role of public opinion, specifically on who should pay for college? Uh, do you see this specific public opinion having influence on any current or future policies?
Yes. So we see in our data that Americans are receptive to government investment in higher education in general. But the US is also a place where people place a lot of emphasis on the concept of personal responsibility. So people will often say things like they think tuition should be free for some people, or that it should be somewhat free, or it should come with some kind of benefit or just cheaper than it already is in general. So they don't necessarily support widespread free college with no qualifiers. And this is really consistent with what we've seen in recent higher education legislation. So, targeted, relatively modest amounts of student debt cancellation and other relief. Overall, though, we see a growing sense in our data that Americans really do see the value in higher education, and they just want it to come at a fair price. And we think this is being taken really seriously by lawmakers and policymakers, that this fair price really needs to be there. And we think that this will lead to change.
Wonderful. And lastly, how does this book pertain to contemporary times, and why is it critical for everyone to read and for professors to assign to their students?
Yeah, so this book has so much applicability to today, obviously. But I really think that the value for students for this book is in understanding how their investment in higher education is really embedded within larger societal discussions and power structures. That the choices that we as a society make about how higher education is paid for, that these choices have social foundations and also social implications, and that we need to keep talking about these ideas as we consider what kind of society that we ultimately want to be.
Excellent. We really appreciate your time today with us, Natasha. So, again, if you want to hear and know about the most cutting edge research out there, please make sure to subscribe to LA Social Science. I'm Celia Lacayo. Till next time, have a great day.